Greetings to you, ladies and gentlemen. Now we are going to do the machine assembly of all the components that we have drawn before. So here I am going to open my ProE. And I'm going to set the working directory. And I'm going to create a new folder, and I'm going to select the assembly option and remove use default template. So I'm going to name this shock assembly. Okay, so under here, this page, I'm going to select empty option. So before we start to assemble our components to do the assembling, we have to disable all these planes except for the axis plane. Now we want to start the assembling of the shock. Now to do the assembly, we have to choose this option whereby we will be adding our components here through this option. So I'm going to choose the bracket option, the bracket component. So so now I'm going to choose the use support again, so that I will start by those two components. So the first thing we want to do is to align this surface and also this surface. So I'm going to use the option placement, and under placement we are going for constraint type, whereby we choose the option called mate. So I'm going to mate this surface and this surface, and then I'm going to create a new constraint whereby now I want to align this axis. You select this axis to this axis so that our components will be assembled just like this. So I am done, and now I'm now going to add the washer, and under here I am going to mate this surface and this surface, and then I'll create the new constraint and select the alignment option. I'm going to align A1 and this axis. So I am done. Now I'm going to add the self-locking nut, and here I'm going to align this surface to this surface of the washer, and then I'm going to create a new constraint and align this option. Okay, let me redo this. I'm going to align, so I'm going to select this axis and this axis. So as you can see, I am done. Now I want to add the pivot. So here I'm going to align this surface to this surface. So I will select the mate option. So as you can see here, our component is not at the middle. of the pivot. Yeah, it's not at the middle of the bracket, so we have to do some calculation so that we can know the distance of translation, so that the pivot will be at the center of the bracket. So let's go to our diagram. So here we are given that from this distance, from the inner part of the pivot, there is a distance of 300, and we also know that our pivot has a length of 250. So we now say 300 minus 250 divided by 2, so that we can get the distance from this surface to the next surface of the pivot. So here our distance will be 25. So here, before we select the new constraint, we are going to choose the offset option and select our distance 25. And here we are done. As you can see, it's now at the middle. Now we are going to create a new constraint so that we can align the axis of the pivot and the axis of the U support. So I'm now going to select the align option, and I will select this option. There's something you have to make sure you have aligned, so you can zoom in here so that we can align. Yeah, you can refit. We want to align this to this option. So we are done. Now we want to make sure that our pivot won't change its position, because if we select done here, let me just show you. If you select done, as you can see here, our pivot will move to change the position. But according to our diagram, we want our pivot to remain just like this. So what do we have to do now? So let me show you. Let me just remove the pivot. So I'm going to do the steps that we have done to assemble. I'm going to meet this surface. Yeah, so when you have reached this position, right, so after you have finished the following process, you have to create a new constraint, and then now we want to align the top surface of the pivot to the top planes of the whole component. So now you have to enable the planes, and then here you select the align option, and under here select oriented. So now you select the top surface, and you have to align it also to the top plane. So here, as you can see, status is fully constrained. It means it is done, and then you select done. So now I can disable. So as you can see, the position is the same, so we are done. Now I'm going to add the bushing, and I'm going to mate the surface of the bushing to this surface, and I'll create the new constraint. I will align this axis to that axis, so I am done. And I'm going to add another bushing. I will mate this surface to the other surface, and I will create a new constraint, and I'm going to align this to this, and I am done. So as you can see, we are almost there. Now I'm going to add about the board. Okay, so here now I am going to align to mate this surface of the board to this surface. I'm going to mate this surface to this surface, and I am going to create a new constraint and align this axis to this axis. So as you can see, it's done, and click done. Now I am going to add the castle nut, and I'm going to mate this surface of the castle nut to this surface, and I will create the new constraint, and I am going to align the axis. Let me zoom so that you can be able to see. I am going to align this axis to this axis. So we are done with the assembly, and I will click done. So here we have just assembled the shock, and is shown here by the diagram, we are done. So guys, I hope you have learned something from this tutorial. So here we sometimes, according to this question, sometimes we'll be told to create an exploded state of this assembly, just like this. So what you have to do, first let me save this. So in order for us to do the exploded view, you select the view option here, you choose the exploded view, and then you choose explode view. So our diagram will be, it will be exploded as shown here. So now in order for us to edit the positions, since here we are told you will create an exploded state of the assembly as shown here by this diagram, so we want to do just exactly as shown by the diagram. So now we want to change the positions of these components. So here you start by the board. So what you have to do, you have to select the view option, and then choose the exploded view and edit position. So as you click the board, there will be an axis here which is displayed. So this line, if you hold the left mouse button using this axis, the x-axis, it means you will be able to move horizontally. So I will leave it here, and then I'll go to the bush. This bushing is supposed to be here, and this bushing is supposed to be here. So let me just check. Yeah, I guess that's it. So now we want to move the pivot here, and it should be upward, just like this. And then I will move these diagrams. So I think I am done, as you can see. So I'm going to select done. I can remove these planes. So here I am satisfied with my exploded view. It's done. So guys, see you in the next tutorial.